Welcome to the Alabama Way, WPXH's public affairs program, providing a forum for local information and community support. If you'd like to be a guest on our program, please call us at 870-4404 or fax us at 870-0544.
Hello, how can I help you?
My husband just beat me. My husband and I are just fighting.
Yes. Are you in a safe place at this point?
Yes, I'm in the bathroom.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about what's been going on.
We've just been having problems for the past few months about financing and about the kids, and tonight he just blew up and then just punched me in the face.
2,000 calls just like these are made to the YWCA each year, and each day 4 women die because of domestic violence. Good morning, I'm comedian Joy, and today on the Alabama Way we take you to a special on-location show to the YWCA. You see, the YW provides confidential shelters for domestic violence. They also provide child care services to low-income families and also transitional and permanent housing to those who need it. Right now, I want to introduce you to Lila. She was a domestic violence victim 3 years ago, but today, because of the YW, she's now a survivor.
One day I came home from taking her to school and we started a conversation. I thought it was just a normal conversation, and then all of a sudden he was standing up choking me, and I was holding my infant daughter in my arm, and he just kind of pinned me between the footboard and the mattress of the bed and just began to strangle me, really, until, because I got to the point where I couldn't breathe, and he would release and I could feel myself catching breath, and he just did that repeatedly until he let me up, but he pinned me in between the wall, the bed, and the dresser, and it just started hitting me in the face. And then finally, I guess he just decided he was done. He told me I could go clean myself up, and I wanted to leave. I was trying to leave, and he would not. He sat in front of the front door and kind of held me hostage.
Lila, ironically, was hired at the Y after this incident and was sharing what happened with coworkers when they told her she could get some help.
Because at the time I was living from relative to relative, and one Thanksgiving morning before that, he left home. I got my babies and I left, and I've never been back.
YW CEO Yolanda Sullivan says, while domestic violence is a tough topic, more women need to have open dialogue about the subject.
Your sister doesn't want to tell you her husband is beating her, nor do your friends want to share that. So the first thing for us is get people to understand that they matter. You know, women, the prevalence of domestic violence will affect and is affecting 1 in 4 across this nation. That's too many. So when you have a group of friends over and you look around the room and you may have 25 people there, 1 in 4 are being affected by domestic violence. That's too many, and it's a silent killer.
Lila is one of few women who leave after the first touch of physical abuse. Amanda Carmichael, the Assistant Director of Domestic Violence, says it usually takes several incidences before most women leave.
It's 5 to 7 times, and that is a long-standing statistic from advocates that have been doing this work since the late 70s. And the reason for that is there are so many obstacles stacked up against a victim when she's trying to leave. Access to finances, pulling children out of school, relocating, not having the support of family or friends, not having a job or a financial plan or stability plan to be able to make it on her own. And then, of course, love. There was something that connected the two originally, and maybe it was a healthy relationship at the beginning, or there wasn't any violence present, I should say. And then things changed. So all of those reasons are reasons why she yo-yos back and forth. Additionally, while she's trying to make these decisions, the abuser is calling, making promises, bringing flowers, bringing chocolate, offering to go to counseling, apologizing, picking up the children, being, husband and father of the year. And so she wants to believe all those things are happening, but yet she's got the physical scars and the emotional scars to deal with as well.
Sullivan says usually adult abusers will often abuse as children.
One of the things we really learned is that an adult batterer, when you follow them back to their childhood, are 50% more likely to have grown up in a family where abuse was present. So that little boy is watching, and that little boy is watching dad hit mom. And when he grows up, at first he's a protector of mom, but what's embedded in him is that must be a part of that love relationship.
All right. And how
Carmichael's
old are you?
department trains staff and volunteers
26.
to be
Okay.
able to handle the abuse
And,
calls that come
are
in
you
on a
working
daily
right
basis.
now? Okay, you lost your job because of him? Okay. So let me talk to you a little bit about what the shelter program is like. It is a confidentially located shelter. It is a short-term shelter, but it's always case by case, and they'll talk to you about that. You'll have a worker there that will work on a plan to get you back on your feet safely. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, there is a curfew. It's 6 o'clock every day. Yeah. And so what you'll need to do is just call us back whenever you're ready to enter shelter, and we'll tell you where to go from there, okay? In the meantime, I want you to be safe. You can call the police if you need to for anything that goes on in between now and when you enter. And then you can call us back if you have any additional questions, okay? All right, sounds good. All right, you be careful.
Many of them do say no. Many of them call in and they're not ready yet. They might just be calling for more information to find out what shelter would be like if they decided they wanted to come in. A lot of times people, they want to see the best in others and they want to think that their relationship is going to get better. But yet they know and they see some patterns or they see things that concern them. So they reach out for information first a lot of times, and maybe even multiple times before they're ready to make a change and to make a break.
Lila says that looking back, she wished she would have listened to her intuition.
There were signs even before we got married. You tend to just not pay attention to it or blow it off. A lot of my relatives would tell me, that's not, the person for you, or they had concerns, and I just kind of ignored it because, I didn't notice the violence. I've heard other people say things about him, and even in the nature of being an abusive person, but since I hadn't seen it, I didn't pay it any attention.
It doesn't start physically. It starts emotionally and it starts verbally. Little comments, putting her down, degrading her, humiliating her, making her try to second guess herself, asking where she is at all times, constant phone calls, constant text messages, checking up on her to see where she is, jealousy. Extreme jealousy, accusing her of having relationships with multiple other people. All of those are signs. Any coercive, controlling behavior, whether it relates to finances, her whereabouts, how she, her work, children, what she wears even. A lot of times victims will tell us that their abuser told them what they could and could not wear. In a healthy relationship, it's all about communication, right? And you've talked about those expectations. A lot of times in domestic violence relationships, there is no communication about what are the expectations for our relationship, what is fair. Trust is huge. So if I trust you in a relationship, then I know that you're going to be where you say you're going to be. For a domestic, if you get into a car accident or get held up somehow at in the store, a child had to go to the restroom or something like that, and so you're not back exactly when you say you're going to be. For a domestic violence victim, that's very dangerous, because if she has said I should be home by 5, if she's not there at 5:05, no matter what has happened, interstate traffic, a child that had to go to the restroom before they left, anything like that small sets her off schedule, that will set off an abuser.
Sullivan says you'd be surprised at the number of teens who are also involved in domestic violent relationships.
is some of those teenagers are involved in domestic violence situation themselves, girlfriend, boyfriend. And so when our AmeriCorps students go in and walk them through the conversation, oftentimes they get those one-on-one questions coming to them after it's over, the session is over. And sometimes it comes up during the session. You mean that's wrong for him to isolate me like that? Or say I don't delete my friends off my Facebook? You know, what's bad about that? And so we get them to thinking. So this is happening at younger levels.
Lila's story will continue after the break, but when we come back, we'll examine more programs the YW offers. Before the break, we introduced you to Lila King, a domestic violence survivor. And now, let's hear the rest of her story. Domestic violence not only affects relationships, but it also impacts the workplace.
We will go train anybody that will let us in on the dynamics of domestic violence, what it's like for a victim, and particularly to your question, how it impacts her employment, for example. Her abuser may be coming up on her job, calling her repeatedly throughout the day to make sure she's still there, and making sure she's where she says she is. And so we definitely can train and work with employers on recognizing and understanding the dynamics, as well as how to help keep their employees safe.
Some good has come out of this bad situation for Lila. She's now living her dreams as a cook at the YW, and she says cooking and baking is her passion.
I want to go to culinary school and be a cook, really, and eventually own my own business. So it's exciting. I enjoy coming to work and feeding the little babies.
But for those who's never walked in a victim's shoes, Lila has some advice.
It's easy to say, don't be afraid, just leave. But more than anything, I would say have a plan. I had put a plan into place, so I knew what I was going to do. So talk to people, come up with a plan, and make your move.
Having a plan is a critical thing that every woman needs to be able to protect herself and her kids in an abusive situation.
We are talking about things like making sure that you have important documentation available to you, Social Security cards, birth certificates, things like driver's licenses, things like that, copies of those things with you. We're talking about an extra bag or extra change of clothing in case you do need to leave immediately. We're talking about things like not trying to avoid arguments in areas like the kitchen in the home where there are access to knives, or if there's a weapon in the house and you know, and the victim knows where that weapon is, trying to avoid confrontations in areas of the home where those things are.
Carmichael says here's how family and friends can be supportive and not judgmental of an abuse victim.
Well, the first thing is believe their story. It takes a lot of courage for victims to speak up and to tell someone what is happening at home. They're afraid nobody's going to believe them, and it's difficult for them to say it out loud. So first of all, it takes tremendous courage for them to share their story. So believe their story, believe them. And then offering any support, find out about your local resources, find out about what's available. There are services and programs available, just like ours, in communities across the country. And so letting victims know you believe them, you support them, you're willing to walk that road with them and help them find resources and help to get out.
Because it's not that easy for a person to just walk away from a situation. There are many reasons people stay. So I would say just be supportive, help them create a plan, and just let them know that you're there for them whatever they decide to leave.
The YW has also given Lila a new outlook as they have provided housing and childcare for her and her 2 little girls.
They've helped me really just get back on my feet and get life going again, because I had gotten to a place where I felt like I didn't know what I was going to do. So they helped me get stable housing for me and my family. They keep me employed. They're very supportive. It's like a family. You know, I can talk to a lot of people here at work about different things, and they're always checking on you to make sure everything's okay.
Lila also recommends if someone is in an unhealthy relationship that they should attend some of the support groups that are offered by the YW.
I think going through the program and some of the classes we have to take, they teach you your value, and just to know that your life is worth more than, you know, what this person is giving you. There's so much more you can do with your life. I think I've learned that from going through the program.
The YW also provides legal services for victims who may need it.
Victims of domestic violence who are unable to afford an attorney would be eligible for our services. And then court advocates, we are in numerous courts across the Birmingham area, Birmingham area as well as Jefferson County, St. Clair County, and Blount County. And so we're really there helping victims understand the court process.
Women searching for help on the YW's website can also click on this tab, and it will make the page disappear in the history column so the abuser cannot realize that she's planning her escape. So as you can see, domestic violence is not just an adult problem. It also affects our teens, our families, and coworkers. But now that you know the signs, you no longer have to suffer in silence. The YW is here for you. You can feel free to give them a call on their 24-hour crisis hotline. That number is 1-800-650-6522, or you can give them a call locally. That number is 205-322-HURT. Domestic violence may be the first thing that comes to mind when you think about the YWCA, but they also have other main platforms that help serve our community.
But our 4 major programs are a broad array of domestic violence services. We have 2 emergency shelters for women. We have counseling, legal services, and the counseling is for both adults and their children. Legal services for women, child development. Number 2, we are the experts in training and teaching the homeless population here in the city. Not just the women, the children from our shelter, but area shelters like Salvation Army, First Light, Jesse's Place, their children. Thirdly, we're housing experts. In some ways, we've been involved in housing over our 112-year history. And our 4th program is social justice, and that's kind of our glue. We're pulling it all together, working on all the isms. We work with a lot of youth programs in social justice, the isms of the world. We do a bullying campaign in the schools through our AmeriCorps program, which we service out of social justice. Love to talk more about that. There's 40 AmeriCorps members that we have under the YW's umbrella that work in or serve in our organization and 16 other member organizations. We have Peace Birmingham. We also work on problems that plague our community like predatory lending. So again, those 4 major programs: domestic violence, child development for homeless children, housing, and social justice.
Our children can tend to be the smallest victims that's impacted by domestic violence or homelessness, so the YW's Child Care Development Center caters to the needs of the working poor and the homeless families, or to those who need some extra help. Teachers at the YW make sure each and every child that comes to school at the YW is safe, although many of them have come from different abusive situations.
Some of our children have been forced to grow up a little more quickly than others. They've seen a lot, they hear a lot. They've been in situations that we couldn't imagine a 3-year-old being in. So for those families, we provide a little bit more lunch. We let them nap a little bit longer. We are open from 6:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. to accommodate for mom who might work more than one job, or dad who has to catch the bus to come by. We do everything that we can to make this a healthy environment and a safe environment for our babies.
Calico Corner serves working poor families, single parent, and homeless families, but because the home life is a bit challenged, teachers at the YW have a way to make learning fun for the kids.
There are definitely differences in the ways that the children are taught. The classrooms, the ratios are very, very small, so they can have a little bit more one-on-one time with their teacher. They are taught more self-help skills. They are taught how to turn off a stove. They are taught how to come home and make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich just in case no one else is there to help them do that. They learn how to be safe in the kitchen, how to be safe in the bathroom. We teach them stranger danger, things that you don't think a 2 or 3 year old would have to be concerned with. These children definitely do have to think about more often.
Kids Corner stands for Kids in Distress, and they cater to families who reside in homeless shelters. Some of those children can really break your heart.
We had a child who knew the shelter. We weren't really sure what the situation was, so he came in, he was really, really quiet. He had been here for about a week, and we had been noticing an odor in the hallway, so we're thinking like, what's going on? What's this? Finally, we start investigating, and we see that this baby had been storing away yogurt and milk and things like that just to take home to the shelter, because he remembers what it was like to be hungry. He remembers what that feeling is, and we want to do everything that we can to eliminate that feeling in our children.
The Child Care Development Center is also trained to handle and recognize children who are being abused.
The YW does have a play therapist on staff who kind of helps guide us in those situations, but the teachers are very, very vigilant to just make sure that we are doing what's best for the child at all times. If the child wants to be reserved and wants to do what he wants to do, we'll let him have that time to himself, and we'll encourage them to integrate slowly, but it's all very child-directed here.
One subject teachers here focus on is love.
Absolutely. Our teachers are wonderful providers. Most times, the children spend more time with us than they do with their own families, just because mom and dad work so much. So we do have very, very close relationships with our families, but it's a group effort here, and I think the parents love it.
They even teach kids about real life experiences.
Our children had the actual experience of writing their parents a letter, or someone a letter, putting an address on it, walking across the street to the post office, buying a stamp, putting it in the mailbox, and when they got home a couple days later, they got mail. They understood how it worked.
You think about the Dance Foundation coming in here every Thursday to teach our children, our homeless children, how to dance. Hand and Paw that comes and works with the older siblings of those homeless children in our after-school program, where they can read to the dogs, because the dogs don't correct their pronunciation. We're trying to get them more fluent.
The YWCA is a child development center that is nationally accredited as well as Alabama State DHR licensed. We believe that the children who have the least in life deserve the very best. That's why we provide the most high quality programming that we can. And our families are great and they appreciate us for that.
The YW provides programs for children of the homeless and working poor families. They are licensed by the state of Alabama and nationally accredited. Besides providing the children with a safe and fun learning environment, they also provide them with 2 hot meals and a snack. They also have special programs from groups like the Children's Dance Foundation. The YW accepts children from 4 weeks to 8 years old. The face of homelessness is not always your average person sitting under a bridge, but many people become homeless due to an illness or a disability. But the YW is one of the few homeless shelters that can provide housing for women with a teenage son or allow her husband to reside with her during those challenging times. We now take you to Interfaith.
What makes Interfaith so different than most shelters is our target populations basically focus on or accept single mothers with at least 1 male child in the household over the age of 10, 2-parent household with children, and then single fathers with children. We are only one of 2 shelters that accept that particular population.
This family, who didn't want to be identified, ended up here after a fluke on moving day.
We didn't have a backup plan because we had talked with the man like throughout the summer, and the day that we actually had packed our stuff to move, and he called and told us that the bank had called and something had went wrong with the bank and he wouldn't be able to rent us the house at that time.
After staying in a hotel for nearly 2 weeks, this family, including their 4 kids, are now staying at Interfaith, which they are very grateful for.
Most of our local shelters, if a family goes into a shelter and it's a father and a mother, their shelters are not set up to house the family unit. That family would then probably be split up. The children will probably stay with the mother in one location, and then the father would go into another location. And for some families, that can be equally as traumatizing as losing their households. So what makes Interfaith different is basically our target population.
Well, it's good because we're all together. Like most, homeless shelters, like you're normally separated, and it's a good thing that we were able to stay together, and then we have our privacy because we have our own rooms, so it was a good thing too.
So once you told me about it, the kids can be there, but I couldn't. I had to find my own shelter, but here you can be together, so that's a place.
Residents at Interfaith usually stay anywhere from 90 to 120 days, but Interfaith will extend their time if residents have some extenuating circumstances.
All of the services are individualized. So let's say if we had a family and there was some extenuating circumstance that caused them to need more assistance than 120 days, that would be available. Now, that 90 to 120 days is with the understanding that while the family is here, the family is actively seeking the tools needed to become stable. That could be seeking affordable housing, seeking better employment, saving, and getting different kind of skills. We also try to make sure that all families that come here are linked to mainstream resources. And the mainstream resource would be food stamps, any kind of other services that are offered to the community at large.
Interfaith not only provides shelter, but it also gives residents a plan to help them be successful in life and get them back on their feet.
When someone arrives here, they would meet with us. They arrive and have a move-in time. When they move into the facility, they are given a welcome kit. That welcome kit will include all their linens, their toiletries, or anything needed to help them set up their unit. Once the unit is set up, then they would become orientated to the scheduling of the house, the meal times, the chore times, and all of the curfews. So every night, to help keep our facility clean and neat, residents have to agree to have a daily chore. And that daily chore would include things like meal preparation, cleaning of the dining room after dinner, so on and so forth, just to help us maintain the house.
Interfaith also provides free laundry services. Residents have assigned time to wash. They even have chores such as prepare meals for dinner.
There are things that we do as a congregant group, and then there are things that we do individualized. So the congregant part of the program is that we do have a curfew. That curfew is Sunday through Thursday nights. The curfew is 9 p.m. unless the resident is working or they have some extenuating circumstances that will cause them to be out past curfew. And then on Fridays and Saturdays, that curfew is 10 p.m. That has to do with stability as it relates to the structure of the house. We have house managers here on duty 24 hours a day, and we have a set meal times, we have set chore times, so those curfews are in connection to the overall running of the house.
Interfaith serves a variety of clientele.
Well, we accept single mothers with at least one male child over the age of 10 in the household, 2-parent households with children, single fathers with children. Now let's say providing we had exhausted all of our waiting list and a mother called us and she didn't fit that population, or a family called us and they didn't fit that population. We would not have empty units available and not accept a family in need, but we have to prioritize who our target population is, in fact.
Oh, we really appreciate it. It's a great big help not having to buy all because they supply you all your personal needs, and that helps save money, so you can save money to get permanent housing.
but Sullivan has some advice if you're on the verge of becoming homeless.
It's very difficult for people to have that realization that I'm going to be homeless. They keep working at it. So the thing that I would tell people is, look at your situation realistically and talk with someone. Call United Way's 211 hotline and tell them that you feel as if financially you're getting to the point you can't afford your apartment, your home, wherever you're living. What are the resources out there? That's one way. Contact the YWCA. The number one call we get through our reception is for housing. That shows you what a big issue it is in our community. Ask us. We will connect you with services within our YW umbrella or to other agencies that provide services.
Sullivan says predatory lending institutions such as those payday loan companies are often the root cause of people becoming homeless.
What we do find, Joy, is that most of the people come to us not knowing how to budget for their own household and financial planning, not knowing how to plan forward. You know, they may go out and borrow money, like we see a lot of payday loans and title loans, which is how we got into advocacy related to that. Those loans carry 456% annual APR and 300% on title loans. People are losing their homes and their cars because they're going out, I can get this $500 right now, but in 2 weeks they don't have $500 to pay it back. And so they go out and get another one and another one. So you look at those situations and it boils back down to understanding finances.
The Social Justice Department at the YW is advocating to lower payday loan interest rates, which could be as high as 400% interest, down to the standard of 36% interest. That will help combat the homeless population in the state.
On title loans, Alabama is a state and one of 2 or 3 left, I believe, that if you put up your car and you can't pay the loan, they take your car and you get nothing. So if you borrowed $1,000 and your car is worth $6,000 and you can't pay the loan, they keep the car, sell it for the $6,000, you get nothing. So we have seen people lose their cars, and once you lose your car, and especially in our city and area, getting to work becomes a problem, so you can't get to work on time, and you know what happens when you can't get to work on time. You lose your job. And that's how we've ended up with families in our homeless shelter.
The Director of Social Justice, Ms. Joan Witherspoon Norris, says they're advocating on the state level when it comes to predatory lending.
Our goal is to limit the interest rate. We do work for community education, but when the laws allow this loophole, which allows lenders to, or the law creates a loophole which allows these certain lenders to charge far more than what most lenders are legally allowed to charge, then it's a slippery slope for consumers, and we can educate consumers, but to fix the problem, we have to fix the law, which is causing the problem.
Witherspoon Norris says the public should be cautious when getting a quick loan due to the high interest rate.
A few years ago, the Department of Defense went to Congress and said, we have a huge problem in that our active duty servicemen and servicewomen, so many of them are caught up in payday loans, and they aren't able to get security clearance because they have so much debt, or while they're serving overseas, their families are left to deal with all this debt. And so Congress came up with the answer to that question, which is 36%. And that is the same amount that the Small Loan Act allows pretty much everyone else to charge, 36%. But in 2003, the legislature created a loophole that said this certain kind of lender can charge 456% instead of the standard 36%. So that's what we're going for, to go back to what the law used to say, which is the maximum amount that a lender can charge is 36% APR.
The YW also provides affordable permanent housing for women and children or men with or without children in the Woodlawn community. Each of the 2 or 3 spacious bedroom apartments are furnished with a washer and dryer. The YW also provides housing for the elderly and disabled individuals in the Avondale and Homewood area.
We keep a waiting list that's almost 2 years long for housing. It's in Woodlawn that affordable housing that we have that's decent and beautiful is a waiting list. In our housing here, there's a waiting list. We have Rosedale with elderly, it's a waiting list. Four Winds, elderly and disabled, waiting list. In this building, our downtown building, we have 64 apartments. 2 floors of those, 24 of those apartments are for transitional housing. You've reached a bump in the road and you need just a little help. So we put case management behind that. You can stay with us for 18 months. We follow you another 6 months. The other 4 floors are for permanent housing. There we service or the residents are the working poor. You can't make more than $21,900 annually to be in our apartment in those 4 floors. And that's, everyone has income that's in our apartments. They may be maintenance, they may be librarian, they could be in the symphony, different jobs, or a combination, and some on disability.
The YWCA offers a transitional housing program for homeless women and their children in hopes of rebuilding self-sufficiency in a safe and nurturing environment. Now, the goal of the program is to help these families become stable and move from emergency shelters to independent living. Finally, the YW provides fun and free activities not only to the children living here in shelters, but also to the residents in Woodlawn as well. Now, let's take a look inside the YW Family Resource Center. What's the best way to get kids to burn off some energy? It's through dance. While it's perceived all kids are doing the whip and nae-nae, the kids at the Family Resource Center are learning African dance.
Well, what's really unique, especially about African dance, is that a lot of dances that we do now are rooted in African dancing and rhythms and things like that. So that is not a new concept. And so it's really great showing them that this music that you listen to now came from somewhere. And so it's interesting because they learn different verbiage, the culture of African culture. So it's not just taking the African dance class, but they're learning more so about the culture of African and taking pride in this is your heritage. This is where you come from.
Students learn different moves during the entire school year. The good news is, thus far they've served 150 children. But the bad news is, there's usually a waiting list. But you can get involved and volunteer for some of those classes.
So we do have volunteers. One thing I forgot to mention is that we do have tutoring on Mondays and Thursdays. And so we're always needing volunteers for tutoring. And then we have in some of our classes, like our art classes, which is one of our biggest classes, we need eyes and ears. So we need more volunteers for that class as well. And also with our cooking with families class, we always need extra hands to kind of help families that might be bigger families, to help the young ones cut and things like that. So volunteers are something that we always are in need of.
Another fun activity the kids enjoy is art. Some of the schools are not teaching it anymore, so the Family Resource Center gives them an outlet in a safe environment.
So that project, Miss Sarah, who was our art teacher, wanted to have our students involved in a special project for myself and my new baby that's going to be due in January. So they're planting the branches, and that will be a project that we will have in her room with well wishes that will be leaves on the branches. So it's kind of my way of taking my kids here and kind of having them pour into my family as well.
Wilkerson says their programs help keep kids engaged in fun, hands-on classes that's not technology related.
Yeah, I think it's there. I think it's just pulling out, having a special time for it. I mean, if you don't, if you know, a lot of the kids are dropped off from there's a bus route that just drops them off here. So it gives parents a security that they have their kids in a secure learning environment. But the kids love it. I think it's using their creative abilities that are there, but just they don't get to express it. You know, a lot of schools don't have art and music programs anymore, so it really is their opportunity to kind of show another side of themselves.
So what's the favorite program among the kids?
The cooking program really has made a big impact. It started off as a Kids in the Kitchen program, which we loved, where we just had the kids in the kitchen and we showed them how to do healthy recipes. But that has kind of migrated to include the whole family, because what we have seen is that when you include the whole family unit, that they support each other in this new healthy lifestyle. So I think that program is probably, to me, one of my favorites, because we have so many, this area is kind of considered a food desert where there's not a lot of access to fresh foods and fresh vegetables, but there's a lot of options of unhealthy eating. So it's kind of making that goal of eating healthy a little bit more tangible.
The Resource Center also offers a summer program for Woodlawn High School students.
Soft job skills, healthy relationships, how to be financially responsible, and then we do trips to Sanford or the Honda plant. So it's really exposing them to more of that. Life is more than just, you know, high school during the year, but you can also expand your mind during the summer.
Sullivan sums up her feelings about the YW by saying this.
Collaboration is a great buzzword that's there. The YW has done that a long time. So many organizations that help us. And then we have the most dedicated staff on top of that. I feel like I'm in a piece of heaven.
The YW, which is in its 112th year, is grateful for its partners, its donors, and volunteers, and the collaboration of community partners who make it possible for the YW to have such an impact on our community. For more information on their services, give them a call at 205-322-9922, or you can look them up on the web. That's YWCABHAM.org. Thank you for watching The Alabama Way.
Thank you for watching The Alabama Way. The views expressed in this program were solely those of the guests and not of the station. For questions or comments, write to us at 2085 Golden Crest Drive, Birmingham, Alabama 35209, or fax us at 205-870-0544.